pretty good.
Tell me your earliest memories of the Hunter Street Shul.
The earliest memory of the Hunter Street Shul are the older men in the congregation who on Kol Nidre carried the Torahs around the bima and below the bima, and they would call out the names of the men who were to ascend to the ark and carry the Torah.
Can you describe the building or like the interior? Was there any distinctive features?
Yeah, all the benches were marvelous real wood, and the upstairs was a balcony where the women sat, and they didn't have those benches. They sat on theater-like seats that were upholstered.
Do you remember some circular stained glass windows that were above the Aron Kodesh?
Yeah, there was a stained glass window above the Aron Kodesh, and the windows along the sides of the building were stained glass as well.
So you were bar mitzvahed there?
Yes, I was.
Do you have any bar mitzvah memories?
Yeah, the most vivid memory I have is Rabbi Burak saying blessings after I'd said my mufter. And the second memory I have is my grandfather acting as one of the gubbas, and he was standing beside me when I said my mufter.
What can you tell me about Rabbi Burak or any other rabbi from that period?
Rabbi Burak was a very dynamic, pious, intelligent man. He was very well educated. He had a PhD in history as well, and he was truly devout, and he didn't pull any punches. He told the truth about what he believed in, and he was quite open and direct. Marvelous man as far as I'm concerned. He got in trouble in Toronto because he was a little too opinionated about orthodoxy, but I'll forgive him that.
Any other rabbis stand out in your mind from the Hunter Street Shul?
Yes,
era?
Rabbi Katz, who was before Rabbi Burak, and the reason I remember Rabbi Katz is that one Christmas my father was in the auto parts store and he sold Christmas tree lights and Christmas wreaths. And I took a Christmas wreath home to our house on Bond Street, took it up to the attic, and I turned it on, and one of the neighbors called my father and said, "Murray, your house has got a Christmas symbol in it. What's happened to you?" So they called me down and told me that they had found this Christmas wreath, and they called Rabbi Katz to come into the house to give me a lecture on why the Jews did not celebrate Christmas. And I'll never forget that.
How old were you?
9, 8. I've still got the wreath.
What other personalities from the Hunter Street Shul stand out in your mind?
There were dozens of them. Rube Levy and his 4 sons, Cecil, Morty, Bobby, and Label. They sat directly opposite from my grandfather's pew. Mr. Davidovitz, who used to walk around Hamilton collecting charity. Ora Pakin, who used to clear his throat and sounded like the chauffeur. My grandfather, Rosenblood, who sat a few pews away. Dave Laskin with his 3 sons, Harry, and who are the other 2? Harry, Joe, and I forget the third one. But they were a marvelous collection of people, and they're all most of them were colorful. And Chazan Snyder, who poured his heart into his chanting. Max Stein, who sat in the chair where the president of the synagogue sat. He sat in a chair that was parallel to Rabbi Burak's chair up on the bima. So that they were a warm bunch of people, and they enjoyed their Judaism, and they cherished it. And my grandfather, of course, gave me a marvelous gift of his example and his kindness. So I'll never forget that, and I'm indebted for that.
What about a spittoon? I heard there were spittoons in...
No, there's no spittoons. They did it right on the floor.
What did they do?
Spit on the floor.
Why?
Because that was the way they did it in Eastern Europe.
I heard it was because they were sniffing snuff.
Well, they sniffed snuff on Yom Kippur. My grandfather had a little packet of snuff on Yom Kippur, but they didn't spit then. And by the way, there wasn't that much spitting.
David Steinberg recalls at the Hess Street Shul they actually had spittoons.
Well, they like to be pretentious at the Hess Street Shul. They like to put on the dog, so they had spittoons.